imparting education, empowering our students, socializing our students. Is that possible through online education? And the Vice Chancellor very rightly mentioned that when you are talking about education does not simply mean giving information. Knowledge is important, acquisition important, because there is no country in the world, when you look at the dynamics of classroom, is completely different in India. Because of several kinds of social reasons, we get there is a major affirmative action in this country, and affirmative action has to be there in the country. Then when you look at the classroom dynamics, there are students from rural areas, urban areas, there are students who come from different kind of a language background. How are we going to be coping with in terms of doing that? And several universities have already carried out some surveys to indicate, even I'm talking about the leading universities in this country have carried out surveys saying that 75% of them do not have access to internet. I'm talking about universities. And these studies which I'm quoting have been carried out in Delhi University and University of Hyderabad. Both of them are central universities. Students said, we do not have access to education. Before I conclude, I would like to highlight whether the digital classroom can afford in India an opportunity beyond the immediate crisis. It is, of course, providing that kind of an opportunity. But it's important when you are talking about the classroom situation. Online learning is held hostage by the digital divide. That is what I was talking about. There's enormous digital divide in this country. Some of them have access to internet, bandwidth, some of them have access to iPhones, some of them do not have any kind of an access. So surveys have shown that unreliable connectivity in this country, and the government is talking about that we'll have online classes, and unreliable power supply to the students at home can be an impediment to learning. So in that kind of a context, there are going to be huge challenges we are going to be facing. So now one of the major challenges we have, the University Grants Commission has taken a decision yesterday that all the final year semester examination should be held. But then they also said, as I've said earlier, they can have online, offline. Now all over today, all over the country, from Delhi to Hyderabad, students have been protesting, saying that we cannot take the examination because there are enormous logistic problems. As all of you know, all colleges and universities all over the country have closed hostels. There are several of them who have been staying in private hostels, who are studying in colleges. They have been closed. If they come and want to write the exam, where are they going to be staying? Are the libraries going to be open? Are hostels going to be functioning? And these are all nitty-gritty problems we're going to be facing. But the University Grants Commission has taken a decision. It is a good decision. I'm not trying to find fault with that decision, because in view of the quality is very, very important. Because as I've said, if you look at there are different kinds of universities in this country. There are private universities, there are deemed universities, there are central universities, there are institutions of national importance, there are state universities, and if we give the power to all these private universities and etc., there could be some certain scope of trying to misuse the freedom which is being given. Say, okay, take only 5 semester marks, 4 semester marks, take the average, and then declare the results. What about the credibility of the degree? The credibility of that degree becomes a big question mark. And in view of that, because we are one of the largest education systems in the world, and we need to have these kind of webinars, this kind of a seminar to discuss various dimensions so that we can find solutions. And we are not prepared. Perhaps this kind of a online education, we would have perhaps got it in 2030 or 2035 because of COVID-19. All schools are going online, all colleges are going online, all universities are going online. We do not know what is the kind of a quality education which is going on. We do not know how much students are learning. Before I conclude, I would like to say already there is a learning crisis in the country. In a recent annual survey education report, ASER report, which is a very popular report by the NGO Pradhan, a large number of our children were found to be unable to read textbooks of lower grades or recognize letters and numbers. At the heart of this severe learning crisis, the draft of the new education policy 2019 puts it is the issue of quality versus quality. We may be producing some world-class software engineers, rocket scientists, and business managers who run Fortune 500 companies. But I think it is important, in spite of our education system, not because of it. It is hard work and the ambition to succeed that propels some of the unique individuals. We have two kinds of levels in this country. Yes, there are many of them, joining, Fortune 500 companies in view of, even though, the quality of education may not be very high, but at the same time, ASER report says, many of the children, I'm talking about school education. Lastly, I would like to make, one point. According to various surveys, which have been carried out in this country, 80% of the graduates who are passing out in the country do not have employable skills. They do not have employable skills. So we have to understand these challenges in view of the crisis which we have. If we're going to be taking a very, very slipshod decision without paying much attention to quality. As I've said, 80% of them do not have employable skills. If you're going to be quickly push all education, the government of India has already taken a decision, 20% of our education next academic year should be online. And in addition to that, they said 100 universities are going to be having online education. Now they have liberalized it further. They said almost 350 to 400 universities will have online education. So as a professor, as a teacher, my concern is, what is the quality of education we are going to be imparting. So three important dimensions I raised before. Equity is important, quality is important, access is important, infrastructure is important. We must try to provide, as much of a quality education as because knowledge is power. Education is power. And a huge country like India, we are one of the largest democracies in the world. We have, a huge population, and it is the responsibility of all of us, whether the government or the society or the state, to provide that kind of a quality, equity education for everyone. I thank all of you for giving me this opportunity. Maybe I'll participate in the discussion a little later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, Professor P.L. Vishweshwarrao Garu, for your focus on the present educational scenario, particularly in this challenging situation and with the quality of education. Thank you so much, sir. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Radhika to take up the question and answer session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Professor Vishweshwarrao, sir. It's our pleasure and honor to meet you and see you today. Giving a very good insights into the present scenario of education system. So now we'll take questions from the audience. If audience has questions, they can put it in the chat box.
Noted. Yeah.
Sir, if any audience having questions, put it in the chat box. Sir, if audience don't ask any questions, can we ask one question, sir?
Yeah, please. Anyone can ask questions. We are in a democracy.
Sir, actually, you told, sir, that is in India we are having unreliable connectivity to internet and unreliable connectivity to the power supply, and we need to have equity and we need to have the access and infrastructure, all these things, focusing on the quality of education. So, the quality education in the present COVID scenario, how can we expect that and how can we implement in the practical way, particularly in rural areas where there are no internet connectivity, where the students don't have mobile phones in such situations.
Yeah, it's a very good question, because the world did not think, we're going to be having a pandemic of this nature.
Yes.
Okay? In
Yes.
that sense, I said, perhaps online education would have been a little more possible, by 2030. We did not think about webinars just about 3 months ago. We only were talking about seminars. But today, all over the world, people are discussing webinars. All universities are having, these kind of seminars, and day in and day out through these webinars.
Yes.
So we were not prepared to have, this kind of a online education. And as I've said, in India, over 320 million people are and universities and colleges. So what is important to know for us is that we need to provide, that infrastructure for them. And I've said, many of them are first generation learners. They do not have access to technology. They do not have access to internet. Am I right? That is one problem.
Yes.
Problem is also for teachers like us. We are not used to teaching. We did not have webinars like this 3 months ago, but today we are having webinars. And tomorrow we are going to be teaching. If colleges and universities are going to be reopened after about a month or 2 months or so, because this is the admission time. How are we going to be doing it? Do all teachers have that access to the technology? Maybe a class is scheduled and I'm supposed to be taking a class, but students have access to that technology. Do I have access to that technology? If there's a power breakdown, what happens? All these factors are very, very important. Now, I'm sure, even in Krishna district and everywhere, the private schools are saying, putting a lot of pressure on you have to buy, a computer, then have internet connection, or otherwise, buy an iPhone. They're putting a lot of pressure on them. And then, it's possible, for them, some of them to acquire this technology. And many of them, 40% of India's population lives, below the poverty line. They don't even go to schools and colleges. That is one aspect of it. There are some of them who are going to schools. Where do they have that facility to have a table like this, sit and discuss and learn? Do they have such environment? As it is in the classroom, I'm sure, as teachers, we are facing, huge problem in teaching. Even eyeball to eyeball contact, face-to-face contact, we are not in a position to gather attention. I'm a quote of one study which has been done by the leading university in the world, MIT. MIT, America, is the leading university in the world. They are saying the attention span of an average student in the classroom, the leading university in the world, is only 14 minutes. Wow. And if you're going to be 14 minutes, and we think, teachers, everyone is listening, a 14-minute average student I'm talking about. And then if you're going to be having online education, what kind of a home is living in? Yeah. Does he have access to, if you have access to technology, is it a quiet environment for him to study? You are lecturing. I'm a student. If there is disturbance in my house, will I understand, what you are teaching or what I am teaching? These are huge challenges. Because India is not, Europe or America. India, there is a lot of social inequality, economic inequality in this country. There's cultural inequality. We need to understand the diversity of this country. Tell me one country in the world which has got this kind of a diversity. This kind of a diversity is there, cultural diversity is there, geographic diversity is there. Am I right? Telangana is different from Andhra. Andhra is different from Bihar. So how are we going to be coping with this kind of a diversity? Number one, access to technology. Number two, access to infrastructure. Number two, ability of the students to understand, and the competence of the teacher to understand. We were not trained. We were only trained, to teach in a classroom situation. And many of them are finding, now extremely difficult. We don't know whether students are listening to us, understand, not understanding. Am I right? In another problem, language diversity. Am I right? Sometimes we are in the classroom situation, students don't know, we clarify in Telugu. We may lecture in English, but we clarify in Telugu. But now, the students, we do not know, You know, the diversity is very, very there. There are rural students, urban students. There are students who come from affirmative action. That is a reservation policy. As it is, it is very difficult when you get into the classroom. And if you're not going to be, discussing in a webinar or online teaching, the problems are going to be much more huge. But however, in view of the COVID crisis, we will have to face this challenge. So number one, I suggest there must be a lot of training programs for the teachers to develop material, maybe video material, YouTube material. Maybe we need to circulate even in print form some of the material which is available to students, because students also have different kind of learning methods. Your learning method is different from mine. I'm right. All of our methods are different. So we will have to face this challenge. But I'm sure in the last 3 months, we faced this challenge. And today we are in a position to have all over the world successful webinars. Webinar as a concept was not popular in India. And because of all this, we have been having all over the world. Webinars are becoming, popular. And I'm sure, 3 months ago when we had a webinar, we had huge problem. But today we are much, much better. As we conduct more and more webinars, we are improving. Our presentation is improving. Technology, we are in a position to, learn it much faster. And I'm sure we'll be in a position to cope with this challenge. But cope with this challenge, we need to have a lot of training courses. We need to develop sufficient kind of material for the students, because no one can afford to lose 1 year. We cannot afford to have a 0 year, because young people have to get back to it. That's a huge challenge, and we are a young nation. Another major problem for this country: we are a young nation. 70% of our population is below 30. They have to get back to colleges and universities. They have to get their PhD degree. And other things, I will definitely understand, if a student is losing 1 year. 1 year, in a competitive world, in a competitive era, in the context of globalization, no one can afford to lose, because, Europe and America is already conducting, in another 1 or 2 months, online classes. They've already decided we are not going to be having a 0 academic year. In India, we cannot afford to have. We need to have more webinars like this. We need to understand, our problems. And I'm sure, given, the kind of the intellect, we have in this country, the way we adapt ourselves quickly, as we have adapted ourselves in the last 3 months. And I'm sure, we'll be in a position to cope with, and then, see that, we provide quality and equity education for all our students all over the country.
So thank you so much, sir, for your concise and concrete explanation of the my doubts and all the doubts of my fraternity also. And there are some questions from the audience, sir. One person, Mr. Shivram, he's asking, I think, what are the key challenges facing Indian higher education?
Yeah, as we've been talking about, the challenges are, as I've said, our education system is a very huge education system. It's not a small education system. The number of students, who are in colleges and universities is almost, closer to about 350 million. And then one of the major challenges is, enrollment has to be there. If you look at after 72 years of Indian democracy, enrollment in colleges and universities in the age group of 18 to 23 is only 25%. Which means 75% of them in this country, after over 72 years of democracy, they do not have access to higher education. Higher education, if you look at again, the number of girls, number of women who are in colleges and universities is only just about 15%. 85% of the women who are in the age group of 18 to 23 do not have access to higher education. So in that sense, the gross enrollment ratio, which is about now 25.2%, has to increase. So that is our major concern, because young people, after they have completed their intermediate, would like to stay at home. They can't afford to lose. They have to get into technology courses. They have to get into BA, BSc, BCom, or BBA, or another course. People have completed BBA to do MBA. People have completed, MSc. They will have to do their PhD and all these courses. So, what is happening, unfortunately, in the country? Central universities are already having their online admissions. Central universities are already having, PhD admissions online. What about universities in Jharkhand, Bihar, more backward areas? Can we afford to neglect them? We cannot afford to neglect them. So that is where the issue of equity becomes important. But then there are a lot of OBC students, scheduled caste students, scheduled tribe students. They must also have access to technology. They must have access to higher education, because when you're talking about any kind of a policy or a challenge, we can't simply keep big institutions, central universities, or institutes of sciences, or NITs in mind, or IITs in mind. There are several other students who are studying in other kinds of situations. So all of them should get quality education. That is a challenge. We cannot make any kind of a distinction, because the colleges and universities are located in most backward areas of Bihar or Madhya Pradesh or Jharkhand or etc. Or for that matter, Srikakulam or Rayalaseema, or Telangana. Some of these regions are very backward, so they need to, have quality education. We must provide them infrastructure. If we're going to be having online, government should initiate a policy of how we can go about providing computer for them. How we can strengthen our internet bandwidth for them. All these are challenges. I'm sure we can, because again, the major issue is accreditation, because many colleges and universities want to have good accreditation. They cannot give a reason because with COVID, we did not have classes, or we did not have quality education. Our results are no good, etc., etc. All these challenges are there. That is where my access is important, equity is important. Quality is important. We must ensure, just because of the COVID crisis, we cannot say we will not provide education. We can't give you quality education. We can't give you access. We can't. We have to give quality. All our students, in the age group should get quality education. That is my concern.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your.
Sir, I've got a question, Professor Tripura. Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, it's an all-exhaustive kind of presentation made by you without leaving any part. But anyway, research has been affected in a very negative way. While it is true that non-lab-based research can be carried on through the students' perseverance and the contact with the mentor through telephone lines or emails, but one-to-one correspondence with face-to-face discussion has no substitute. And in many cases where secondary data are needed, the students cannot visit the sources, like institution itself, the offices and libraries, as all the data are not available online. So research is going to be severely hampered. So how it is going to be?
Yeah, that's a very important question. Not only our students are doing, these courses, because many of them are pursuing PhD programs. The problem is going to be in terms of assuming are labs open? Can they do that kind of a research in labs, particularly if talking about chemistry, biotechnology, biology, or for that matter, any other course today need databases. Are libraries open? Are libraries accessible? That data is there. It may be easy for us to talk and say that libraries also should have access, but who is uploading the data? All these are huge challenges are there. As I've said, in view of the kind of hierarchy we have in the education system, unfortunately, central universities, IITs, and NITs have already done their PhD admissions online. I'm in Hyderabad. I know central universities have already finalized admission. Hyderabad IIT has already finalized admission. IFLU University, which is they have already finalized their admission. They in fact not declared their MA results also. But then many of us do not have access to the technology. I agree with you because there are several programs in the government of India. JRFs are there, ICSSR fellowships are there. Rajiv Gandhi fellowships are there. Many of them getting the fellowship. But then will they have facilities in their universities and libraries? Are they in a position to do field work, and particularly in social sciences? But when we're talking about education, as you very rightly said, teaching is important. Research is also equally important. As I've said earlier, among the top 200 universities in the world, India figures only couple of institutions have that kind of a ranking. They don't have them. We don't have high ranking because what is our research? How many people are publishing international publications? The question of publications in international journal comes only when you do basic research. basic research. So it is equally important. I'm sure, COVID-19, that is going to be another kind of a challenge. The challenges in terms of undergraduate courses is one aspect. Challenges in terms of postgraduate courses is another aspect. Challenges in technology courses is another aspect. Challenge in terms of research is going to be another altogether different kind of a ball game. Ball game. So now we will have to identify all our issues and then develop models. And as I said earlier, we are talented. We have the intellect in this country. We have the creativity in this country. We have imagination in this country. In the last 3 months, we will be in a position to cope with this challenge by our innovative thinking, by having discussion, by having debate, and we need to democratize our decision. And I'm sure India will be in a position to face that challenge in the education sector. Yeah.
Sir, thank you so much, sir, for your informative and exhaustive and insight. Like, there are so many questions to be answered now from your lecture and presentation. Answers to be seen in the future coming years. As a first generation, learners have to take upon all these challenges, I think so. Thank you so much for giving me these beautiful sessions, sir.
Yeah. I'm happy that, a small and a new university, Krishna University, is holding such a national webinar. We hope we conduct more webinars, more seminars, but then at the same time, our academic activity should continue. Students should not suffer. We should adapt technology, in an efficient way. I'm sure we will do it, and I'll be happy to participate in any of our future activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you
so much, sir. This is Dr. Radhika signing off. I'm handing over to Jyotirmay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We'll move on to the next session. It's an immense pleasure for me to introduce our speaker, another speaker, Professor M. Vanaja, Department of Education and Training, Maulana Azad National Urdu University, Hyderabad. Professor Vanaja Madam is highly qualified and have been serving in teaching for 26 long years. From teaching, she is also Director of Admissions in Maulana Azad National Urdu University. Her contribution to corporate life and management of the department and institution is very commendable. In her career, she published 20 books and numerous research articles and received many laurels for her contribution in the field of education. I'm happy to welcome you, Madam. Ma, please share your views. Thank you.
Yeah, can you get me? I'll speak for 1 minute. One.
Madam, presentation start చేస్తున్నారా?
Ma'am, can you see the presentation?
No, ma'am. Audio. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
You can, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Click. Yeah.
Ma'am, can you put me on the screen, please? My presentation and me, because I can't see the presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam.
Okay.
Is it okay, ma'am? Is it okay, ma'am?
No, I'm not able to see it.
No, she is having control. Already control చేస్తారు madam.
మేడం కంట్రోల్ ఉంది మేడం ఓన్లీ మేడం స్క్రీన్ చూస్తున్నారు అది కాకుండా పక్కన ప్రొజెక్టర్ అని ఉంటుంది అది చూడమని చెప్పండి
ఆవిడకి తెలియదు
Yes, I am starting.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everybody. At the outset, let me thank Krishna University for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Let me thank all the organizers for thinking of this wonderful topic. I would be just running through a few slides. But to keep people active, I might ask you to comment on your chat box so that I can see few questions and then get the answers. I may not be able to read. So if you don't want to comment on the chat box, at least comment on your own paper or pencil or in your mind. So let me begin with an important confession. I don't know all the answers. I only believe some of my experiences may translate to your needs. So I hope we can learn through this session. This is a different way of interaction. So if you have anything to ask or share with me, you can get to me through my email. So let me begin with a wonderful question. I'm just asking you, what have you missed most in the last 3 months related to your professional work? I believe most of us are teachers here. So I just would like to know, what have you missed in the last 3 months related to your professional work? Those on YouTube, you can also post on the YouTube chat box. So if you have posted, what I believe the answers could be: my classroom, my routine, my students, my colleagues, my interactions in the institution, my financial independence, and whatnot. So I haven't got anything in the YouTube, in the chat box in the YouTube, friends. So these are some of the things we have definitely missed in this COVID era. Next, I have another question for all of you. Which aspect of F2F classroom, F2F, I mean face-to-face classroom teaching, have you missed most during the online teaching? We are all now on online teaching. If we are in online teaching, what is it we have missed out of this F2 classroom when we are doing online teaching? So if you want, you can post it for me. What is it you have missed? So my answers are interaction with students and colleagues, meeting my students, my personal talk with them, making eye contact, the gestures I was doing, moving around and teaching, blackboard and chalk, asking questions and answers, very important thing, calling out attendance, and my classroom environment. So some of them are saying my college, my friends are saying my classroom, my students, my friends. So this is what we have been definitely missing in this situation of online. The third question I'm going to ask is, how comfortable are you with shift to online instruction? From chalk, blackboard, we are moving to the tablet, the online instruction. In your own mind, mark yourself as 1, I'm very comfortable. 2, I think I can provided I'm giving training. The third is, I am daunted to give it a try. I am scared. I will not try to give it a try. And the last is, I will never attempt it. So we have 4 options. So a few have given 1. Very nice. They are ready to go into the next stage. I have some who have said 3. And very thankfully, nobody is saying 4. So that is something very nice. We are scared, we are comfortable, we will try, but there is nobody who is saying number 4, that I will never attempt it. Now, these were some questions from which I am now going to go into what are my challenges. These questions and these answers have given rise to the challenges I will be listing now. The first challenge is the shift from face-to-face to online teaching and learning. See, when in the situation of COVID, what had happened, just on a 2 days, 3 days difference, we are just separated from our students, and then suddenly we were asked to go to online teaching. And then the online teaching, the process, some of us didn't know anything about it, some of them did know. Some of us had other problems, which I will be listing as we go ahead. So as the first challenge we are facing now is shifting from face to online teaching learning. The second challenge, this has come out of the answers we already gave. What is the attitude of the teachers towards online teaching, and what are the skills we need to take up online teaching? See, for most teachers like us who have been teaching for the last 2.5 decades, we have built a culture, we have made a building of what we call teaching within the four walls of a classroom. And to move from it into a virtual space, this requires a big attitudinal change. Some tools, people told us about tools like Zoom, Google Classroom. We hadn't heard it, or we had heard it, but we are not used to it. So this was a big challenge for the teachers who were supposed to take charge of this conversion from offline to online, whether they had the skills, whether they had the right attitude. The third is the availability of devices, which Vishweshwarao sir was also talking. See, we have brought this online teaching by taking this concept, BYOD. BYOD is bring your own device. Nobody gave the devices to them. So the challenge was availability of devices and the right type of device available. So this was a big challenge because we are asking students to come into the online classroom by bringing his own device, which might be the own or the family, somebody else's, or some be owned by them. Now when you have, these were the three challenges that I have talked about. Now the next question I just want you to think about is, why is it difficult for us to use the internet, or do we have software issues? Are there any problems of that nature? For that, that gives rise to my challenge number 4. The challenge number 4, these are all the excuses, or these are all the real problems which we have made. Software, I don't have access to software. Some of these softwares are expensive. Then we don't have internet access. Teachers, we don't have time to prepare. We don't have the training on the software. Then the time we are investing on training and using of that software ran into more hours than what we were doing as a regular classroom teaching. So these are some of the difficulties. So now this gives rise to the next challenge. I just want all of us to think of 4 words. What are equality? What is inequality? What is equity? And what is justice? So now for this, I have a small graphic. The first picture, we can see inequality because this kid is getting the whatever they want and the other kid is not getting any chance to get the fruit. Equality is both of them are standing on the ladder, same height ladder, but this person is able to grab it, whereas the other person is not able to reach the fruit. The third is an equity measure where this person's height has been raised so that they can both. But the justice would be not to raise this, but create equal opportunities. So now we have 4 words. These 4 words have become big challenges as we move towards offline education and online education. So this divide between equity and equality is given rise to what we call as the digital divide. Digital divide divides those who have ready access to computers and internet and those who do not. So there is a digital divide between the rich and the poor, those who have it and those who do not have it, the gender differences which are definitely visible in our country. And so we have a digital divide. So there are some who have access to all the digital equipment and there are yet others who just do not have access to it. So there are some who have access to devices but don't have access to the technologies. So this is one big issue. So the digital divide, as I already told you, it could be because of the access to ICT, it could be the income, it could be education, it could be gender, it could be the geographical location between the urban and the rural, it could be age, it could be skills, it could be awareness, and it could be the political, cultural, and psychological attitudes of the people. So if this is the divide, my fourth challenge comes through. So what is the relationship between digital divide and education? And as educationists, what can we do to slow down the digital divide or remove the digital divide? Now I have a very important question. Are you literate? Obviously, all of us are literate. So we can read, write, express, communicate, everything. What is the my intention of asking this question? Now I'm asking you another important question. Are you digitally literate? So now if you think you are nearly illiterate, grade yourself as 1. And if you feel I'm completely literate, grade yourself as 5. In the next few slides, let us see whether you are really digitally literate. So a person who has digital literacy is able to do all these skills which I have shown in this here. He has creativity, he has critical thinking, he has cultural and social understanding, he has collaboration, he can select information, and he can make effective communication. He or she has knowledge about e-safety, and they have functional skills. This, according to Paul Gilster, is what, if you have all of these skills, then you become digitally literate. According to Lynch, there are 8 essential qualities which will make us digitally literate. So the first is coding. So we may not be expert coding people, we may not be coding professionals, but we must have a basic understanding of what coding is, what are the languages used to create these applications, sites, and software. So that is, I can tell the computer what to do by giving it step-by-step instructions to follow. That is coding. Do I have an idea about coding? Yes or no? You please note it down in your mind. So 1, yes or no. The next, online collaboration. So do I have the skills for online collaboration? So when I do online collaboration, how do I deliberate with my friends who are sitting somewhere else? So how do I deliberate with my teacher? How do I deliberate with my classmates? So when I'm doing this, there is an online collaboration where when all of us are going to do the same work, the same task at the same time or in real time. That is synchronous online collaboration. Asynchronous is when we do it at different times and located at different places. So do I have the skills for synchronous online collaboration and asynchronous online collaboration? So second aspect, yes, no. The third aspect is, do I have knowledge of cloud computing? So do I know what is cloud? Do I know how to put my, save my documents, my pictures are on the cloud? Do I know how to do it? Do I know how to access it? Do I know how to retrieve it? So do I know what is cloud computing, and do I have the skills to do cloud computing? So the third, yes, no. The fourth is word processing software. So most teachers know what is the word processing software. We know we do work with word processors. So do I have knowledge of the word processing software? Do I know how to use it? Do I know what are the different features in different platforms? Because for online, we will not be only working with our Microsoft Word, we need to know other word processing software also. So the fourth question, word processing software, Do I know it? Yes or no? The fifth is what we call as screencasting. This is a digital recording of a computer screen's sequence of action. So when I'm making videos, when I'm giving effective videos, I must know what is screencasting. So the future world is I must be ready with these pedagogy tools like screencasting. So I know how to make digital recording of my computer screens or actions and put it across to my students. So fifth, screencasting, yes or no. The sixth, the personal digital archiving. So do I have the skills for doing this? So do I know how to archive my data? So do I know how to save it? Because when you're doing online, there will be lot. This is just like, do I know how to arrange my books in a cupboard? That was earlier point. Now I would say, do I know how to arrange my data? Do I know how to archive it so that when I need it, I get it back and I can use it? So the sixth question, yes or no. Then just look at this. Don't believe everything you read on the internet just because there's a picture with a quote next to it. This is said by Abraham Lincoln. Is this true or fake? Yes, this is fake. Why? At the time of Abraham Lincoln, there was no internet and he would not be making this quote. So be very careful to evaluate the information which you get on online platforms. So you should know how to evaluate what is the information. So the 5 W's of evaluating web information is who is the authority, what is the relevance, why the purpose, when did it take place, is it current? Just like I told you, the earlier quote is not proper because Abraham Lincoln and internet and social media don't go together. And then where did it happen or its accuracy? So whenever we have, this is my next skill, do I have it? Don't I have it? The last is, are you social media savvy? So do you know how to work on different platforms? Just like I have put it in my graph, do you know how to share? Do you know how to chat? Do you know how to search? You like, you make friends. So do you have this? Now let's take a minute. When I asked a question, are you digitally literate? Maybe you put yourself on the scale of 1 to 5 somewhere. Now read through all these 8 and now you tell your own self, am I digitally literate? Would you like to change your earlier rating? How digitally literate are we? This is my challenge 5. So when I do digital literacy, we need to have access, adoption, and application. So these are the 3 aspects of digital inclusion. So if there is digital literacy, there is a digital divide, you have to think of inclusion. You cannot exclude a group of people and leave them away. So we need to give access. We need to see that students and teachers are digitally literate and the application works. So world keeps on changing. There is a change everywhere. There is nothing which is permanent. Just look at some of these. Till a few days back, the left was tablet. Today, the meaning of tablet has changed. The left is the old Apple. The right is the new Apples. The earlier, the means of communication was through post. Now you know what are all our social media communication means. Earlier, Twitter meant birds twittering. Today, Twitter means something else. Cloud, wonderful sky. Today, cloud means something else in addition to the sky. Friends has changed. The concept of payment has changed from bartering to present day paperless payments. So education also cannot stay away from such changes. Education also keeps changing. We are moving from books, blackboards, pen, pencil to online education. So change is perceptible and we do have to make the changes. So even we make these changes, the question generally asked for all educationists is, will technology replace teachers? I would say technology will not replace teachers, but those teachers who use technology will definitely replace teachers who do not use technology in this movement, in this shift from offline traditional classroom teaching to online teaching. Those who do not take up the technology issues will be left behind. So when I have the change taking place, we have from on face to online. I have a Venn diagram showing the left side what we have as features of our face-to-face teaching, where we have face-to-face synchronous classrooms. The pace is generally dictated by the teacher. You require a classroom, you have attendance in a physical location at a fixed schedule or our timetable. Then collaboration takes place between persons. We use instructional approaches and a few courses. Now, when we are making the shift to online, it could be synchronous or asynchronous. There could be flexible schedules, and all activities could be online, and resources are also online. We communicate and collaborate digitally. Then, real time data and feedback are the measures of evaluation. So, teacher becomes a facilitator, and we have a wide variety of courses. Now, between the face to face and online, the Venn diagram, which we can find, uh, we have you have curriculum, you have different activities, and then we have regular feedback, both authentic and which will lead to authentic assessment. So here we come across a new thinking which we call as blended learning. It is not only face to face, it is not only collaborative, it is not self paced, but a blend of all these together, which will be the future of the type of teaching learning we will be taking. So the innovation now would be how to blend my offline and online resources. In blended learning, I have just put down what all you have: the teacher fronted lectures, the student directed e-learning. We'll have discussion forums, group discussion. You'll have individual projects. You can have group projects. You'll have individual or group presentations. We'll make videos. We can download lectures. You can have internet study communities. So we'll have online assessment, course information, self and peer assessments, uploading of assignments, and transparent system of grading. So blended learning will have all of it put together. The next aspect, which I would say is an innovation to go ahead with our new way of online learning, is something which we educationists call as TPAC. The TPAC concept is given. The frontiers of these are founders Lee Shulman, and then Mishra and Kohler. In these three people have now actually, Shulman gave three concepts which were called content, pedagogy, and technology. And later on, the other concepts have been added. I'll go through each of them one by one. So, content knowledge. So, content knowledge is what every teacher needs, and most of us definitely have it as teachers. So, the first aspect is content knowledge. You must have knowledge of concepts, theories, principles, frameworks, organizational framework, proof, practices, all the about the content. So, this is first aspect. So, we have content knowledge. Then we have pedagogy knowledge. That is, pedagogic knowledge is how to get across this content which we already know. What are the processes or practices or the methods of teaching and learning? So how do we bring across? This will include our understanding of how students learn, general classroom management skills, lesson planning, and assessment techniques. The third is technology knowledge. So what is the technology we will be using? Okay, what are the tools we will be using to use to either to transact the knowledge, or for assessment, for any process of the teaching learning. Now the fourth is the when between content and pedagogy, what we call as pedagogic content knowledge. So each content has a new technique of teaching. Each content will have a different way of going about. So do we know which pedagogy to use for which content? This will comprise of the pedagogic content knowledge. The next is what we call as technological content knowledge. So do we have the understanding of how technology and content influence one another or become constraints on one another? So do we know which aids the other? So at sometimes the technology we are using could be a deterrent. Technology we are using may not be aiding for understanding, may not be aiding for the students learning. So technology should not deter it, technology should not become a constraint. So which content requires which technology and how it has to be blended together. The next part is technological pedagogical knowledge. So technology and pedagogy, how do these two go together? So this is the sixth aspect. The last is put all of them together, which is technological pedagogical content knowledge. So do we know what is the content, what is the technology, what is the pedagogy, put all together? In the days now, it has become very important for us to think of this PPCK, that is PPAC, which talks about how do I know what to teach and how to teach. Do I give a lecture and record it and send it to them? That may not work. Everything in a lecture form may not work. Maybe we need to do some graphics. Maybe we need to put some in it. Maybe we need to do some action points in it. Maybe we need to do some animations in it. So we are now moving, as one of the questions they were asking, what about the skills needed? Maybe we need to think of virtual labs. So where do I introduce this concept of a virtual lab? How do we go about? Now this technological pedagogical content knowledge is the most important thing we need to think of when we are moving from offline to online, because all of these components, what to teach, how to teach, what mode to teach, how to transact, and how to go get it across to the different students. So TPAC is the basis of effective teaching with technology. So you must know the technology, we must know the ways to teach the content, we must know the content and also put across all together. Now, I would call myself a traditionalist. If I am a traditionalist, am I ready to learn the new tricks of the trade? So this is what which will lead to our innovation. So am I ready to extend my own knowledge? Am I ready to give hands-on proactive activities? Am I ready to collaborate? Am I ready for a personal development? Do I have a knowledge, or am I ready to integrate some new strategies and have an idea about new pedagogies? Am I able to embrace technology and the wonders of this digital literacy? So as traditionalists, are we people? What should we